Okay, let's talk about decoration. So you've got your wreath base ready to go, looking all lovely. First thing we want to do is put on our hanging ribbon, because then we know where our top is. We're not going to lose sight of it when we're arranging our decorations. So find the position that you want your top of your wreath to be, pop your ribbon underneath, and then all you want to do, you'll do this flat on the surface, but just to show you, what you don't want to do is that and squash down your pine. So you take your ribbon, you lift up your pine as best you can, and you just thread the ribbon underneath. So can you see when we hang that, all we can see is the lovely pine. And then all you want to do is even up your ribbon and then just tie a little knot just to hold it in place. Now, depending on your door, it depends how you're going to hang this. If you've got a UPVC, obviously you can't put nails into it, but you can get hanging hooks, or you can create a little loop on here and hang it on your door knocker. If you've got a wooden door, one tip I always give to people is to run this up to the top of your door and then put drawing pins, I've gone too high, you can't see, put drawing pins along the top of your door. If you put 2 drawing pins in there and just hammer them down onto the top part of the door, then there's no damage to the door that's visible, and it will hold in place beautifully. So that's what I would do if you've got a wooden door. Or as I say, you can make a ribbon, you can make a loop, you can make a bow, anything just to hold it up really. All right, so that's that. Let's get our wreath down again. So keep the top of your wreath at the top when you're decorating it, because that's obviously how people are going to look at it. All right, so let's talk about winter fruits wreath. So for that, we've got our whole oranges, we've got our cinnamon sticks, we've got our pine cones, and we've got our fruit slices. So, a few pointers when you're decorating. Odd numbers are always better than even. So, for example, if you were to put 1, 2, 3, my hands will spread, 4 oranges on, that's going to look a bit odd. If you're going to do a group of 2, group of 2, and then maybe a 1 up there, it's always going to look better. That is a general rule for everything. Odds are better than evens. I was just thinking, is it a general rule for everything? I was going to say with pictures, but I think it is. If you were doing a gallery wall, you'd have odd numbers with photos and things. Obviously, if you're going for symmetry, and you go even, but we don't really want that. So I can't really tell you how to do this, because it's up to you, and you need to make this wreath all about you. So I'm not going to tell you exactly where you're going to put your oranges and your pine cones and your cinnamon sticks. I'm going to show you how you apply them, and then you need to get creative and do your own thing with it. So I'll give you some guidance and some rules for you to follow, and I'll show you how to attach everything, and then it is entirely up to you. I mean, in terms of the winter fruits, you've got so many options. You can go evenly around, so you could have like a pine cone, an orange and a cinnamon stick, and you could do little groups of those. If you wanted to, you could build everything in one area. You could do little clusters of these fruits and then clusters of other things. So it's really all about you and how you want it to look. If you're completely lost and you just think, I have people that come to my workshops that just say, I'm not creative at all, I can't do it. I guarantee you every single person leaves with a beautiful wreath, and I guarantee you will make a beautiful wreath today. But if you're really lost, have a little look online, look up some wreaths, and it will give you some ideas. But honestly, I think just play around and be true to yourself. Now, what I would say to do is do not attach anything until you've worked out your design. So by that I mean take your pieces and lay them on. Now, they're not going to sit exactly where they will be when they're attached, but they'll give you a good idea. So for example, I'm going to pop those oranges on like that. So I've got a 2 and a 1. Then I'm just going to pop some pine cones in. Now I can guarantee some of these pine cones are going to drop off because I'm just laying them on, but it will give me an idea of how it's going to look. Okay, so just have a play around with it, and this won't necessarily be a quick process. Okay, this is what takes the time. When I do my classes, people make these wreath bases up in no time at all, and then we can be like an hour plus fiddling around, getting the look right with the decorations, getting everything where people want it to be. But yeah, that is the fun of it. And as I say, it's all about representing you and your taste and your style. So just have a little fiddle around. Whoopsie. See what I mean? There goes a pine cone. So they'll fall off, but it's going to give you a little bit of an idea. Another tip, if you're then worried you're not going to remember where you've placed everything, just take a picture. And actually, pictures can really help just to firm up. When I'm doing concept boards and design boards for interior projects, I often will lay everything out and then take a picture of it and look at the picture, because I don't know why, it can just make things clearer in your mind. All right, so I have, I'm going to try and show this to you, but it's probably all going to collapse. I have laid on my oranges, my pine cones, and I've put a few of my fruit slices on, not all of them. I haven't done anything with my cinnamon sticks yet. Cinnamon sticks are a bit more awkward to lay in, so I'm going to leave those till later. If I tilt that slightly, there we go, it's all going to fall off. But hopefully you can see a little bit on there, probably not, of how I've arranged the bits and bobs. All right, so have a play around, move it, look at it, walk away from it, and just see what you feel happy with. Oh, there it goes again. God, I love it. All right, so once you're happy with how you've arranged everything, and as I say, it could take you quite a long time. So don't feel under pressure to do this quickly. Oh my goodness, it's all coming off. I'm just going to show you now how you'll start to attach things, because they're all going to go on in different ways. Now, what I would say, if you happen to have a hot glue gun at home and you want to use that, feel free. You can attach all of this using a hot glue gun, and then you don't have all the faffing with the wire. However, if you don't have a hot glue gun, it's very easy to attach with wires. So I'm going to show you the wire option, and then it's entirely up to you what you do. Because the pine is very hardy, it won't matter that you put the glue on it. If you are hot gluing, obviously be really careful, but you want to put a big dollop of glue on your fruit or your pine cone, and then just push it down onto the leaf, the pine where you want it to hold. Now what I would say is you've got less flexibility if you're going to hot glue things on, because with wires, if it doesn't look quite right, you can take it back off. Once you've glued it on, you're done. So I would suggest having a go with the wires. It just makes it a bit more fun, and it means you're learning how to do it properly. So the oranges, the whole oranges are the biggest challenge. Now in your stub wires, you've got two types. You've got the thick and you've got the thin. The thick are for these oranges because they are quite hard to get through. So what you want to do is, I've probably picked a really bad one here to do it on, is find where you've got a slit, push your wire through, and then you want to try and come out. Oh, that's worked. Not as bad as I thought. Come out on the other side. Last year we had limes and they were almost impossible to get the wires through. So can you see I've come out on the other side, and I'm just going to bend that wire like that. So it's almost like two prongs, okay? So that's how we do our whole oranges. I'll just do another one for you. Go through one side and out the other. Ideally, you want to come out of another one of the slits, just because it looks tidier. But if that doesn't work, it doesn't matter if you come out through the actual skin. It's easier to come out. There you go, I've come out the skin that time. It's easier to come out of the slits. And sometimes you'll find you'll go through one slit and you cannot get it through. Just come out and start through another slit and just see. So it doesn't really matter where it goes. Okay? So what I would suggest you do is, once you've decided on where you're arranging everything, as I say, take a picture so you can remember. And then it's worth getting all the fruit prepped, to be honest. So get all of your stub wires through your oranges, and then you are ready to go. So it's almost a little bit like a production line. There we go, that's that one done. So they were going on this side. And I'm just going to lay mine near where I'm going to put them on the wreath, because I haven't taken a picture of mine. All right, so that's that one. And again, as with the pine, I've given you plenty of trimmings here. You may find you don't want to use them all. Don't feel under any pressure at all. And likewise, you may want to add extra things. So you might want to get a bit of holly. You might want to get some mistletoe. You might want to get some berries. It's up to you. All right, so that's your whole fruits all done. That was actually a lot easier than I was anticipating. Next, we've got pine cones. Now you've got a choice here. You can either use these thinner stub wires, or you can go back to your real wire if you want to. So if you're using the thinner stub wires, what you want to do is take two of them, overlap them slightly, and then just twist the overlapped ends together like that. So you've got a much longer wire. Then you take your pine cone and you just want to weave this around the base of your pine cone. Can you see that? So it's gone all the way around. And then when the two wires, the ends meet, just give them a little twist 2 or 3 times, and that is secured. All right, so that's how we do our pine cones. So I'll just show you again. You take 2 stub wires, twist them together. Okay, take the base of your pine cone, and because these are green, they shouldn't really show up. If you get them tucked in nice and tightly on the pine cone, they won't show on your wreath. All right, and then twist. And there's another one ready. If you want to use your real wire, I don't know why, I just prefer the stub wire. What you want to do is take a length and you get one end, pop that through. In fact, I know why I prefer the stub wire, because you've got 2 obvious ends. And then you just wrap, can you see I'm just going around that a few times. And then using your snips or your wire, if you've got wire cutters, snip it off with quite a bit of length on it, because that's what we're going to use to wrap round. So it's entirely up to you, but those are your 2 options with your pine cones. Okay, so let's keep going with this. So twist, twist, twist. And the reason we have 2 stub wires is because we need to have quite a bit of length to then wrap these wires around our wreath. Because if you think about it, we've got to get around the bulk of the pine, and we've got to get around the actual moss base. Okay. So next one, on like that. And we're just going to twist, twist, twist again. We've got our 2 ends. All right, nearly there. So just keep going with those. So as I said earlier when I was going through all the bits you've got in your kits, you will find, now see, make sure you twist these wires together really well, because I didn't then, and they've just come apart. And what you don't, like I said earlier, with the wind and everything else, what you don't want is to find half your wreath scattered across the garden. Oh, and a little tip for anyone that's doing the winter fruits wreath. I had someone came, was it last year or the year before? And they decided to use a lot of the fruits. And they got home, it was quite a fun wreath workshop. Well, they're always fun, but it was quite a late one. And so it's quite late when she got home, and she just left it on her front porch. And she came out the next morning and there was no fruit left. Because basically, I don't know if it was foxes or squirrels or something had eaten the fruit, because this is proper fruit, it's just been dried out. So make sure you get these straight up on your door. Do not leave them on the ground outside. Otherwise you'll have a bare wreath. So, right, one other thing just to say on this, because I just noticed myself not doing it very well, is when you wrap these round the pine cone, try and make sure that the 2 ends are a similar length, because otherwise, again, you're going to have problems when you come to wrap it around the actual wreath. All right, so that's my pine cones done. Oh no, one more pine cone, and then we're done. All right, so then the last thing, which is actually the most delicate thing, are the fruit slices. And they can tear quite easily, so we do need to be careful with these. So I would say if you've got a glue gun, even if you're wiring everything else, it might be worth thinking about gluing these. But the wire works perfectly well. I always wire them. So fruit slices. Now, I would suggest with the fruit slices, you get all your other bits on and then you put your fruit on and you wire it as you're putting it on, because it all depends whether you want it to stand up or be flat as to where you wire it, whether you want individual pieces or you want layered pieces. So, but what you want to do, again, we're going to take the thinner stub wire, or you can do it with real wire, but I would go stub wire. Fold your stub wire in half to create a little U shape. And then you just want to push it through your fruit, but don't go through this white pithy bit, go through the flesh of the fruit. But this is why you have to be careful, because it is very delicate. And you can, if you're doing layered pieces like that, you could use one wire to go through both pieces. Basically, the less wire you use here, the better, I would say, because the more wire you put in, the more holes you're creating in your fruit and the less stable it will be. So for example, with that, if I'm going to double layer that one, I'm going to push through the lime and the orange with that piece, and then this piece I'm going to push just through the orange, and then it comes up like that. Okay, now obviously you can see a little bit of the wire there, but if you think about it, when it goes into your wreath, that's going to be down in the foliage, so you won't actually see it, and if you do see a little bit, it's not the end of the world. All right, so that's how you do your fruit. So that's a double. If we were going to do a single, I'll just show you that. So again, we're just going to fold in half, so we've got a little U. It's so thin, I don't know if you can see it. And then we just go through. So we would put it through one end through one segment and the other end through the next segment. So don't put them too close to each other, she says. So easy, it's not going through. There we go. These are quite sturdy actually, these oranges, which is good. Chunkier than ones I've had in the past, so you should be fine with them. Okay, so that's gone through, can you see? And then we just pull, and then we're ready to attach. Okay, so let's start attaching. I'm going to start off with my big oranges. So I can now lift my wreath up to do this. My arrangement may end up a bit odd because I'm doing it all in reverse. But decide where you want to put it. So let's say I'm going to put it there. Okay? So look, I've just put that on. That's great, it's on, but it's going to fall off. So what we want to do, again, we want to avoid squashing too much pine unnecessarily. So I've just got my two ends and I'm going either side of the wreath on the pine, okay? And this way you've got to be quite tough with it. So try and get it in the position you want it in. Like I say, not squashing any pine unnecessarily. Then flip your wreath over, and then you've not got a huge amount of excess here, but just twist the ends of the wire together, okay? Twist them around and then just push them flat onto the back of your wreath. And that's an attached orange, okay? And that is not going to come off. Again, because it's on a wire, can you see I can move that? So if it's there and you think, well, I don't want it there, just push it up there. All right, so that's my first piece on. So I was going to put two oranges together. So then again, just going to get my next piece. I'm just going to put it on there and think to myself, is that where I want it? All right, I'm going to make sure I'm not squashing down more pine than I need to, but likewise, you don't suddenly want a bit of pine going at a funny angle. So make sure you've got these wires coming through in the right place. All right, so I'm happy with that. Turn it over and twist, twist, twist. Now, it's entirely up to you how you work. If you want to, you could finish off that whole arrangement. So if you want to have pine cones, you could think, well, I'm going to do that whole section. put all the pine cones on and everything else. I like to get all of one type on and then move on to the next, personally speaking. So it's entirely up to you. So I'm going to get all my oranges on. Now I've got to remember how I had it. What did I have? What did I have? I think, and I had one up there, yeah. All right, so just keep going with that. So as I say, with the oranges, and I would always recommend getting the oranges on first because they are quite big. You want to get your bigger pieces on first and then your more delicate pieces at the end. Okay, so let's just twist that one together. See, this is another reason not to go crazily bulky when you are putting your pine on, because otherwise you'll never attach these things. You'll be having an absolute nightmare. And every time you put a piece on, put the wreath back down in front of you with the top at the top, so you're looking at it as people would look at it when they approach your door, or when you approach your door, because you want to be smiling every time you get to your door. All right, let's get that piece on there. So as I say, with the decoration, there is no right or wrong way to do that. There's a right and wrong way to attach them, but in terms of the actual design, anything works, as long as you are happy with it at the end. So I'll just pop this last orange on and then I'll show you what I've done with my orange arrangement. So the more trims you get on here, the more careful you've got to be as you're turning it over, obviously, because you don't want to start damaging the trims. But to start with, you don't have to worry too much. You will find as well some of the pine may move position, but again, it's all wired, so just give it a little shimmy. And actually, these little stub wires are great. If you suddenly find, for example, if that bit of pine was suddenly doing that, which is no good, and it wouldn't go back into position just by pushing it, you just get a little stub wire and you put that over and you hold it in place, okay? So look, there's my oranges on. So I've done a 2, a 2 and a 3. So I've got quite a big gap here and I've got a bit of a gap there. So I'm gonna fill this down here. I'm gonna have more pine cones down here just to fill that gap. But first of all, I'm gonna do a bit more work on these areas here. So what I want to do is pop at least one pine cone onto each of these areas. So pine cones exactly the same as we have with the oranges. Pop it on and then twist your wires together and twist them lots of times at the back. As much wire as you've got at the back, twist them, twist it to make sure it holds in place. You'll have a variety of sizes with the pine cones, so again, that's going to be a factor, is what size pine cones you put where and what position. Once they're on with the wire, you can twist them as well. So, for example, that one, I can twist it if I want it to go in a slightly different direction, or if I want it a little bit lower. All right, let's get sure about that one there. And again, so even once you've done your arrangement, you might find once you start attaching things that you need to have a little play around with it further. So it's all trial and error. But this is the fun part of it, to be honest. This is where you can get really creative and decide how you want it to look. And have a real play around with it. I think I'm going to put a third pine cone there just to build that area up a little bit. So this one is the one I did with the real wire, and I'm going to show you now why I don't like it. And I would suggest using the stub wire. So I've only got one end, so I've got to get that pine cone in, then I've got to get that bit of wire, and I've got to wrap it round several times. Look, I've already caught a piece of pine with it. I've got to wrap it around the whole wreath a couple of times. So you're constantly then trying to avoid the pine and not squash the pine. And I just don't think it's as secure as the stub wire. So I would definitely, you've got it there, I would definitely recommend using the stub wire. Okay, so you can see I've now built this area up a bit more. So I've got some pine cones there. I've only got oranges there, so I need to do something there. But I don't want it to be symmetrical. So I've got 3 pine cones on this side. I'm not putting 3 pine cones on the other side. So I'm going to start with 1 there below the oranges, not that one. It's sitting a bit funny. And again, you will find that like a certain pine cone will look right in one place and not right in another. So just play around until you get the look that you want from it. Okay, let's twist these at the back. It's a little bit fiddly. Oh, I've lost my wire now. It is a little bit fiddly twisting these. And sometimes you can lose your grip on them, but you'll get into a rhythm with it. She says. Or maybe not. This one's giving me trouble. So I've got a bit more bulk of the pine on this side, so it's a bit trickier. There we go. That's why it's important to twist these wires as much as you can to make sure everything's really secure. Okay, so that's still the top of my wreath. All right, I'm going to add a couple of pine cones up where I've got this single orange to add some balance there. Put that little one in there. Okay, I need to go under that bit of pine. Can you see? I've just got that one there that I'm just going to twist into place. And then I'm just going to give those a little wriggle around. Okay, so that's looking much better and much more balanced. And actually that gap there is now filling out with what I've done here. I still need something up here. So what am I going to put up there? I don't need a lot because I'm going to have a bow up there soon. So I'm just going to put a single little pine cone up there for now. And then I might add a little orange slice up there for on it later. Okay. There we go. Just position him. The idea of these is you want them to look quite natural. You want them to look, I think, not too symmetrical or balanced. But I mean, some people like them completely symmetrical. It's entirely up to you. Right, I'm just putting that last pine cone down the bottom there. You can see I put it on, it was like that, and I'm just going to twist that a bit and get that to stand up like that. So there we go, that's still my top, there's my ribbon. I'd say that's looking a lot more balanced. Right, next thing, don't forget we've still got the lovely orange slices to go on. That pine cone has come loose. So just always check, give them a little jiggle just to make sure you've got them on properly. Because sometimes you think you have and then you haven't. All right, oh, I know why I was twisting it onto the wrong wire. That's no good, is it? All right, there we go. Let's get that one in. All right, we're in, we're positioned. Okay, so next job again, remember always get the top of your wreath at the top as you're looking at it. All right, so cinnamon sticks. These are a bit of a challenge to put on. They're not too hard to wire, but it's just getting them in the right position so they don't look odd, particularly if you're dealing with 2 oranges or a couple of pine cones. It can be a bit tricky. All right, so again, we're going to take 2 of our thin stub wires and we're going to twist them together because we need a much longer piece. Again, for this, you can use the real wire if you want to, and actually it works quite well with the cinnamon sticks because once you've got your wire, you're going to thread through from one end to the other. And then we're just going to bend. So we've got our little, what are they called? Little stems. All right, and then to attach your cinnamon stick, so I'm going to put one in here. We're just going to lay it in its position, and then as we did with the other things, we're just going to take the wire through and then just twist it at the back. Okay, now obviously the cinnamon sticks are quite long, so you may find that it's wider than the wreath and the pine, but that's fine. Because these wires are green, you won't be able to see them. Okay, so that's my little cinnamon stick in there. I've actually done that a little bit tight, so I'm going to give it a little pull and just move that so I've got it in the position that I want. Okay, so let's do another cinnamon stick. Where am I going to put that? I'm going to put that where I've got my single pine cone, just to build up that area a little bit. That. Just having a little jiggle here with that cinnamon stick. There we go, I've tucked it slightly under the pine cones now. Alright, so get the next one, thread it through, decide where you want it. I'm going to go up there. I'm actually going to have my cinnamon stick. I'm going to get that wire. So on this one, if I just went across, you can see I'm going to trap all of the pine. So I'm going to have the cinnamon stick on top of the pine, but I'm going to have the wire going under the pine. I might just pull that bit up a little bit as well. So just try not to trap too much of your pine. In fact, I'm going to... So as you're wiring these, you'll end up like moving the direction of things just to make sure that it looks nice and natural. So I need that one. You can see it is real trial and error. I'm not going to necessarily get it right first time. Okay, there we go. That's that one in. Okay, again, if you're hot gluing, you don't have to worry about all this squashing of the pine. You can stick them wherever you like. But you don't have the flexibility of them being able to, as I'm doing, give them a little jiggle to get them in exactly the right position for you. Okay, so where am I going to put my next cinnamon stick? This is where you just got to have a little play around, really. Put one there. I think actually I might double up in that area over there. Or should I double up? Oh, double up there, that's nice. Okay, so I'll just show you what I'm doing here. So I'm just going to wire. Again, 2 stub wires twisted together. Threaded through. And then this one, I'm going to lay on top of the cinnamon stick that's already there. So I'm creating a little bit more height to the wreath. So again, I just want to go through. So there is going to be a little bit of wire there visible, but because it's green, as I've said before, you won't be able to see it, so it really doesn't matter. And we're just going to twist, and I'm not going to pull it down really tightly because then obviously I'm going to squash everything. But you see that looks really nice, just at the different levels there. And then I'm just going to put my last, just needs moving around a little bit. So you'll be able to see more easily than me because you'll be looking directly down because I'm doing it standing up. I'm having to jiggle things a little bit. Okay, so last cinnamon stick going on. And he is going to go at the bottom where I've got my single, you see that? Where I've got my single pine cone. I'm just going to pop him down there. Again, I'm going to jiggle my way or fiddle my way through the pine. Now that bit I'm bending the wrong way, I don't want that. Okay, that feels about right. So let's get that attached. What you can always do as well is like loosely twist these wires at the back, then check that you're happy with it, and then if you're really happy, then make them all a lot tighter. I'm just going to attach mine because I think it's fine. All right, so there we go. We've got whole oranges, pine cones and cinnamon sticks on this now. So all that's left from the pack are the fruit slices, okay? So you can either attach these so they sit quite flat, or what does look nice is if they're actually standing up like that, coming out of, or coming away from the wreath. So I'm going to do that with this first pair that I've got here. Okay, so this you need to be really careful because, as I said earlier when we were wiring these, they are quite delicate. Now if you find, as I'm finding with this, I've not got enough length here, so I'm just going to get another real wire, not real wire, stub wire, and twist that on like that. So I've got a little bit of extra length on the wire just to then tighten them at the back, okay? So actually you may need to do this, particularly if you want them to stand up. If you're going flat, it's not so much of an issue. If you want them to stand up, you're going to need the extra length. So can you see? I've got them in there like that. They look fab. And now this way you don't want to then put your wreath flat on your surface because you're going to squash those orange slices. So you need to do it standing up now. Just twist those wires together. If you end up with a piece that's very long like that, oops, just snip it off and then push that wire down into the wreath. Oh, I love it. Okay, that looks great. All right, so I've now got a single orange. So where's he going to go? He can go. It's real trial and error. You just don't know until you put it on. I think I'm going to put him in there maybe. Yeah, like that in there. Okay, let's see if I can get this one on. Sorry, that way around. So again, I'm just going in, wiggling my way through, and I am just about going to be able to tighten those. It's tricky. So if you don't think you've got enough wire to twist, honestly, add another wire on because you just don't want them falling off. You don't want to be worrying every time you close your front door that you're going to lose a piece of fruit. So you can see that in there? That's lovely. All right, so what have I got left? So I'm going to do a double down there, but these ones I'm going to do slightly flatter. So to preempt any possible issues with the length of the wire, I'm going to twist these two lengths together anyway. Now what I would say is if you fold that in the middle, then you've got the twisty bit on top, so don't do that, okay? Fold your wire so you've got one side slightly longer than the other, and thread through your fruit the piece of wire that hasn't been twisted if you can, because obviously again that's going to be less damaging to the piece of fruit. Now look, I've just had a thing there, my segments come out, don't worry about it, just take it out and then just pop this through another section. These lines are very, very delicate. Okay, we'll bend that over and we'll go through the orange. There we go. So you can see that they are very different lengths, but that's okay. We can make that work. All right, so I'm going to go down the bottom with this one. I'm going to try and get it in there. I don't know if you can see that. So to do that, I'm going to thread the wire, the shorter wire around. Again, I'm going to get it under the pine, so I'm not squashing down the pine. We want to keep the movement in the pine. And then I'm going to bring the long piece round to the short piece and then just twist, twist, twist as many times as it allows. Okay, look at that, it's looking so colourful. All right, so just to show you, because I've done all of my pieces of fruit standing up, if you want your pieces of fruit flat, then you can do that, but you just as you wire them flat. So let's do, I don't want to put them there because that's where my bow's going to go. How do I do these? Oh dear, I'm running out of room. I've got so much on here now. Where should I put these pieces? Or maybe we could have a single piece up there and a single piece down there. Okay, so last couple of pieces going on. So if you want to, I'll just show you, if you want to use the real wire for the orange, which may be easier, just take a really nice long piece. You've got massive wire on here, way more than you use. I mean, one of these reels in my workshops would probably make 3 wreaths, I would say. So you've got tons of wire there to play with. So we're just going to push that through. Actually, I think you may be better off just doing the real wire. So look, I've got loads of length there. We're going to wiggle that through our pine as we have done before with the others. So the Scotch pine, the sugar pine you'll find because it's got these little friands, is that what they're called? Fluffy bits. They're much easier to catch in. So you might have to pull those through, but just be careful because they are quite delicate. All right, and we're twisting at the back. Twist, twist, twist. Snip off the excess and then just push the wire in. And then just get that. So I've managed to knock that pine cone now. So again, this is where we now do some final rearranging. Just to make sure that everything is looking as we want it to look. And again, just keep, while you're working on your wreath, oh, that one's not in. Keep holding your wreath up in front of you and having a look at it and checking that you're happy with it. It's all balanced and it's all working as you want it to. All right, I've got a pine cone that's not behaving down here. That was the one, there you go, you see, that's the one I did with the real wire. So I'm going to snip that off and I'm going to use a couple of these. And you may find as you're going through some bits feel a bit loose. Just take them off and do them again so they're secure, okay? It happens. Okay, let's twist that on. I mean, I am rushing through a bit here. So obviously you can take your time over this. All right, so let's twist that at the back. Okay, so I'm noticing at the back here I've got some sort of lengths of wire that I'm just going to cut off because you don't want to scratch your door. So any longer bits of wire, snip them off and just push them in, and you can try and push the ends into the moss base if you want to, or just push them flat, that should be enough. Okay, and don't do what I nearly did then and start looking at it the wrong way up. That is not going to do you any favours. Right, do you know what? I'm going to put that last slice in there, and I'm going to do it with the real wire. I can get quite a long piece of real wire there. If you've got if you've got snips or garden like secateurs, they're good for cutting the wire. The wire's only thin. If not, if you've got little wire cutters, I mean, to be honest, you could even use household scissors to cut this real wire. It's so thin, but I would use the back part of the scissors because I don't want to blunt the front part. All right, so this is my final piece of fruit going in. So I want to tuck that in there, if you can see that, and then I'm going to thread my wire through. I'm going to have a filthy top at the end of this. Thread my wire through. Is it going? There it is. And I'm going to thread through on this side. Have a look at it to make sure everything is where you want it to be, and then just twist that wire around several times, snip off the end and push it into your moss. Okay, so that is my wreath decorated. So what I'm going to do now is just have a look at it. I might have to manipulate some of it. It's not looking too bad actually. I might have to manipulate some of the bits of pine. I might need to manipulate some of the bits of decoration. If anything's looking really bad, then you can obviously take it off and move it. But hopefully if you've been checking as you've been going, you should be quite happy with it. All right, so last thing to do is to attach your bow. So easiest way to do this is to make your bow up, okay? And then take a piece of the stub wire, and you can either go with a thick piece or you can take a couple of the thinner pieces. I think the thick's easier with the bow. And you just pop it through the back of your loop, and exactly like we did with the oranges, fold it in half. And then you want to position it, so where you've got your ribbon, obviously that is going to be your top as your wreath is hanging. Oh, my bit's come out now, I dropped it down. Let's get that round. Go upside down, that's why, there we go. All right, and then we're going to push it in. So when we make our own wreath bases, we can normally push this through. Oh, I think we might be able to. Let's have a look. So these ones, these ready-made ones, this is straw in here, and then the moss has been applied to that. So it's a bit harder to get it through. It's a bit more effort, but it is going. So that's why if you use these thicker wires, you should be able, she says. I've got one end through. I've got to try and get the other end through now. Is it going to go? Is it going to go? It's coming. It's almost through. There we go. It's through. All right. So let's get those out of the way. So make sure you've got your tails hanging down. Make sure it is positioned centrally where you want it to be. Okay, so I'm happy with that. And then just flatten those wires at the back, and that will hold it in position. And then you just want to have a little fiddle with your bow. Cut your tails so they're how you want them to look. So I like mine to be like that. And there you go. That is my bow wonky or straight? Looks a bit wonky. There we go. That is your finished winter fruits wreath. So all's left to do now is to hang it up on your door and enjoy looking at it every time you go into your house this winter. Thank you so much for purchasing a wreath kit and having a go at making one yourself. I hope you found it useful. I hope the instruction video has worked for you. If you have any questions, do feel free to contact me. I'd also love your feedback, because this is the first year I've done the kit, so it'd be great to know what you think. You could like the video, you could send me some feedback, good or bad. But yes, I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you have a wonderful Christmas and a great new year, and fingers crossed we can be making wreaths again in person next year. Thanks very much. Bye.